The Chartered Institute of Forensic and Certified Fraud Investigators is seeking partnerships with registered political parties in Nigeria on the recruitment process of candidates. The pioneer president and chairman governing council of the institute, Iliyasu Gashinbaki, said this in Abuja during a meeting with the leadership of the parties.
For a strategic partnership with the institute because of the nature of what we do. I will briefly share what the institute stands for and also emphasize the meeting point why we think this is very important. The Institute of Forensics was chartered by law in 2022, assented by His Excellency former President Muhammadu Buhari, and that gave birth to the first Institute of Forensics and Fraud Examination in this country. And by implication, even in Africa, is the first chartered institute by statute. Basically, the institute has powers to conduct training, capacity building, and regulate forensic activities in Nigeria. In addition to that, the institute also has powers to establish forensic laboratories. And beyond that, the institute has a college, which is the primary organ of the institute responsible for training and retraining, cutting across law enforcement, the private sector, and the public sector. Uniquely also, when we were at the National Assembly, there were about 4 forensic bodies already that wanted charter. And the National Assembly was already torn apart regarding what to do. So all the 4 bodies were consolidated into one, were subsumed into our own, and that led to the Section 6 of the Act that created the multidisciplinary and the multi-sectorial areas of forensics. Now, that's just the brief introduction of the institute in terms of what we do and all of that. The laboratories, for example, we will have, the council has approved 5 of them. There is the document, there is the digital, there is the medical, and there is also the engineering forensic lab. And then the one that commonly you see in movies, which is the physical forensics and ballistic. So we have 5 laboratories underway, and that, for example, the digital forensic lab, NIDA, is working with us to roll out that one to create the cyber forensic laboratories. Now, Mr. Chairman, sir, we are specifically coming to IPOB because there is this saying that politics is too important to be left in the hands of politicians alone. We are professionals. We are not politicians. But every person or every institution, in one way or the other, you have one way or the other that you contribute to the development of the political system. And this institute has decided that as part of our contributions to democracy, we would want to engage IPOB, where all the political parties are together, to see how our professional expertise will help in strengthening the electionary management process. We have had several instances that we know that ordinarily if forensic tools have been deployed, it would have saved the nation the embarrassment that we have gone through, or even the stress that the electorates went through. A typical case in point, Your Excellency, is the case of Bayelsa, where a sitting governor, the election was nullified because of certificate forgery. That shouldn't have happened. The person that the masses elected is a different person, but the court nullified the election on the basis that the certificate was forged. So, and that
Since 2020, Africa has experienced coup in 8 countries of Gabon, Niger, Burkina Faso, Sudan, Guinea, Chad and Mali. The military takeover is not unconnected with the lack of trust in the recent governance across the African continent. This Pan-African group says the political parties are key partners in addressing the practical situations.
In this room today, we are talking to all political parties in Nigeria. We've seen the decline in governance across Africa. When you look at the Mao Ibrahim report that came out like 3 years ago, it indicated that the governance in Africa has regressed within the last 10 years. And what happened after that report? Multiple coups across Africa. So what's the call this morning? The call is that if politicians are interested in sustaining democracy in Africa, it means there must be good governance. It also means that the entire process of selecting the best and the ablest to represent us in the political offices need to be reviewed. And that is why, as an institute, we have taken it upon ourselves that we will provide this service across Africa, beginning with Nigeria, because they say charity begins at home. In Nigeria today, we have about 11,079 elected political offices, from the office of a councillor to the position of a president. Now, these 11,079 positions are positions constitutionally will have to go through one form of election or the other. And today we believe if we can get the process of getting these 11,079 people right, if we can get the best and the ablest into these positions, I can guarantee you 90% of the problems that Nigeria faces will disappear overnight. And therefore, what do we then do to solve that problem? One of the ways to address that is to tackle the recruitment process of people that occupy political offices from the position of a councillor to the president. So I'm here to announce to you, Chairman Sir, that the Institute has 2 critical laboratories that will be completely set up before the end of this year that will be critical for the 2027 general elections. In ensuring that, I repeat, in ensuring that at least at the first stage, no dubious or questioned document or forged documents of any kind, because we have had instances of forged NYSC certificates, forged tax clearance certificates, forged academic certificates, filled in by politicians, just like the case of Bielsa, to stand for elections. And then at the end of the day, you leave the country with huge embarrassment and the electorate are shortchanged. So the Institute, through the service of these 2 laboratories, is proposing to partner with IPAC to ensure that all political parties work with the Institute to help you with the vetting and authentication of documents of candidates that will stand elections before the primary elections. And our call this morning is that we are calling on IPAC to coordinate all political parties to ensure that that is enshrined in their own guidelines and regulations for primaries and election of candidates that will represent these political parties. We think this is great service to the nation. It will add and infuse credibility in the way governance will proceed henceforth. And at least that first window of at least you have candidates that you are not afraid that once they stand election, they will not be disqualified, at least you have them. You know very well that it's only the position of the governors and the deputy governors that do have immunity. And this thing that we are talking about this morning is a very practical case. If you contest a governor with a fake forged certificate, and you happen to be sworn in as governor, they have to wait for another 8 years. Because even though it's a criminal offense, the governor is under immunity, you cannot prosecute that person. So we are talking about practical situation that we know has happened, is happening, is going to happen until we take drastic steps to stop that. Particularly for your elections, the Institute will help in the following areas. Number one, voter registration, verification, and authentication. We are going to help working with IPOB in further authentications and if there are problems, because the forensic tools helps us to resolve all of that. I can guarantee you the voter integrity working with us for 2027 general elections will be much better than what we have. Ballot and voting system security. That is one area also that the Forensic Institute will come handy in ensuring that anything that will result to tampering with ballot papers, the forensic tools will just throw it up. In the Institute, we used to marvel. All this noise you hear about the 2023 general elections, that they ended up with over 1,000 election petition cases. And we spent months upon months adjudicating over those cases. For us in the Forensic Institute, we think that's a child's play. Because what are you doing, spending 3 months or probably more, in adjudicating or prosecuting election petition cases? While if proper forensic tools have been deployed, these are cases that you can resolve within 4 weeks, and you are done. It's science. It's the protocol of science.
Political parties have assured the Institute of support in achieving its goal.
This partnership for me and for the council, I believe, is a welcome development. It is timeous. It must be encouraged and it must be consolidated for the benefit of all Nigerians. But I must tell you, sir, you have to be prepared for challenges because it will be resisted. And why do I say this? We have all the enabling laws in Nigeria, but sincerely, politics have been made to be so lucrative economically, and that I think account for 70 to 80% of the problems we have in the system, because it's more of business than service to the nation. We must be ready to tell ourselves the truth.
The Institute aims at contributing to the Nigerian and global criminal justice system, industry and society with the hope of maintaining credible leadership in Nigeria and Africa.